What is going on, everybody? It's Jay, aka it's Tropical Juice Story here, back with another Phantom Parade Tower Showcase video featuring Blue Summer NOBARA. Now, Blue Summer NOBARA has greatly impressed me, even at just the big A0, and we're doing an A0 showcase specifically because I think this started with the Kenjaku showcase, where it really did hit me that I feel like we should be doing A0 showcases to start out for the unit. And then as I get more awakenings, we do more showcases. I feel like this also helped a lot with like the summer Yuji stuff. And even though NOBARA doesn't have an SP awakening like Yuji, I feel like for the lucky people that may have pulled NOBARA off tickets, or for people that don't know if they should chase dupes or not, this could be like a good starting point, right? Don't let the small baseline stats confuse you, or the big ultimate gauge. She's very, very strong. So in a weird way, for the kit overview, I'm actually not going to start with the skills. I'm going to start with her passives, because for some reason, whenever I try to explain the skills, I get like muddled up in the passives, and it ends up getting organized in a weird way. I mean, I'll probably end up organizing it in a weird way anyway. But her first auto skill, which is going to be the first thing she does every single time you use her, is called Holiday Mood. When she starts the fight, she starts with plus 20 CE. There's no limit to it. Now, mind you, it's not like you're breaking CE limits as soon as fight starts, but 20 CE. You get that straight up at the start, and you also get plus 3 tropical juice. The max you can have is 5. Now, tropical juice is important because it plays straight into your skill 2, which I feel like it should be called Festival Grace, but it's spelled Estival Grace. I'm calling it Festival Grace, all right? We're cool with that? Basically, that little tropical juice that you have in your passive, you can pop it into skill 2, which gives you 20 more curse energy, and it also gives you a ginormous damage dealt increase buff. Now, this is a special buff that cannot be stacked. So don't just start out your fights as like, okay, I'm going to drink all 3 juices back to back to back to back. No. You're selling. You're ruining your own game plan. It's a special status, all right? And it can be overwritten. So instead, you would pop 1 juice, and then maybe on like turn 6, right, you would pop another one and refresh, overwrite the status. Or like you would just wait until, you know, obviously your damage dealt increase goes away, and then reset it. Sometimes I use this as a curse energy tool depending on where I am at in a fight. But all in all, I mean, you shouldn't spam these, because I feel like NOBARA is pretty sufficient with CE if you mix her up with, I guess you could say, the right co-op partners, I'll say. But this is a very strong skill. This is your starter skill. Basically, every single run, this is the first thing I do, personally, whenever using this unit. Right? Now, next, she has a baseline evasion boost of 10%. Whenever she dodges, she gets a 20% crit rate increase to herself for 3 turns, and she also gives herself more tropical juice. And obviously, like I said earlier, it's a maximum of 5. So if you're worried like, okay, I start with 3 tropical juice, that means I could run out at some point. Well, I mean, you can get more back. I also feel like even at A0, she does kind of clear through content to where she doesn't even need all 3 most of the time, in my personal opinion. But again, for the people that may need those extra tropical juices, it's up there, right? And even then, her skill 1, which is diffuse throwing nails, also gives her increased evasion. So you even have a better chance to get more juices, and obviously that nice little crit rate increase. Now, skill 1 also scales with the amount of enemies that are on the board. The less enemies, the more nails that are going to be in the boss in question, or obviously whatever enemies. And it also applies a Jujutsu technique damage taken increase for 6 turns. Now, my goodness, I've been saying that so much, it almost felt like a tongue twister, but it's whatever. She also has Straw Doll technique Resonance. Now, again, this is another curse nail count move, and the best way I can explain it, because it seems like a huge word salad, right, is that you just throw in, you hit skill 3 a bunch, you upscale like the nail counts, right, and you also have the debuff counts. Now, here's the thing. This is the best way I can explain it, because the game explains it in a way that just feels like a whole bunch of word padding. NOBARA has 2 things going on. She has the nail count, right, which is important because her damage does scale overall with the nail counts. Her ultimate is also very, very, very important for this. But she also has a weakened effect passive, which plays not only with the nail count, but it also plays just with the general amount of debuffs that are being applied to the boss. Now, if you have up to 15 effects in total, it does change the strength of not only your skill 3, but it also changes the effect of your ultimate. So that is something you have to keep in mind, that Nobara plays very well, not only to her own strengths, as she's able to apply her own debuffs, which do last for a very long amount of time. Again, she has debuffs that last for 6 turns. So building up like 15 statuses and debuff effects on a boss isn't a ridiculous concept whatsoever, just due to the fact that her debuffs last a long time. Even if they are just 5%, it adds up in a very large way. So that is kind of the best TLDR I can give it, outside of just directly just reading it straight up to you, is that the more debuffs you're applying, the more damage she's doing. Once you get 15 in total, she's hitting a peak number. So for example, for her passive, up to 100% maximum with 15, and her skill 3 in specific can be boosted up to 52.50% at peak. Now, her ultimate, it's a bomb. It also scales, again, with that 15 I was talking about previously. The higher the nail count, the stronger the effect. Becomes up to 90% maximum when 20 in total. Okay, so remember, you have all of those, I guess you can say, special debuff from the weakening effect, which again scales up to 15. But the strongest Nobara ult you can get, you gotta get that 20 nail count. Alright? Now the 20 nail count isn't exactly an impossible thing to achieve in terms of like actual gameplay, but it's not like a necessity for you to hit crazy damage numbers. Right? I feel like once you hit like that comfortable, I guess you could say like first 5 or 6 turns, she's already like steamrolling through content by the time she gets her first ultimate. So I wouldn't stress about like having to build up like all the way to the 20 count for nails, or even just building up to the 15 count for like her full passive just at the start of fights, because she already again has a monstrous self buff, and she's also doing a ton of debuffing by herself alongside whatever debuffers you want to put on her team. Now, the only issue that you may come like into is like, okay, she does have ways to give herself CE, but her main damage skill also eats up a ton of curse energy. How could I possibly solve this issue? Now, in my personal opinion, the best way you could do it is that if you're doing like sweep or lower end content, you could bring yourself Arkaido, give yourself some curse energy at the start. Basically, I guess you could say save yourself, right? Just maybe frequently spamming this, because sometimes, you might run out of curse energy, like, well, I guess I could pop another juice, right? Give myself a little 20 C. No, you can start out with Arkaido. Or you can put Nobara with these 2 partners that I believe that work very well with her. Now, obviously, you can co-op ult together with a lot of other units using Nobara, but these are my personal favorites. So, Blue Inumaki works very well because his co-op ult effect also recovers 10 CE for himself and the cooperator. So, if you're wondering, like, okay, well, what can I do to make Nobara get more CE? Combo ult with Inumaki. Get the extra curse energy. And if you have Blue Ghetto is a phenomenal partner with Nobara, also giving a decent 14 CE for himself and Nobara. It is something that I strongly recommend that when you're using her, you kind of like tag her up with somebody that could give her CE at the end of her ultimate, just so you can keep that skill 3 spam going. But outside of that very long intro ramble, because man, like, it just, whenever a Nobara unit drops, it just feels like the kit is like a huge word soup because of the cursed nail count stuff. But let's just dive straight into the tower showcase. Okay, so in typical showcase fashion, we do got to showcase some quick type of clear. I personally thought doing like the 4-turn floor 79 stuff would be kind of slop, because it doesn't really demonstrate like the actual core strength of this unit, I feel like short clears and like this aspect is kind of just bullying like the lower tier tower content, which is just what this is, really. Especially because it's kind of like, you know, a culmination of just Inumaki and Miwa dunking on the bosses alongside Nobara. Now, mind you, Nobara does do the most damage out of everybody on this team to get this 4-turn clear. But if you guys are, I guess you could say, knowledgeable enough on like other Phantom Parade content creators or like the other Phantom Parade players I know in my own personal space, you guys would know that like 4-turn, 5-turn, 6-turn clears for 79 isn't exactly a crazy thing anymore. It's kind of just pretty normal. So I'm like, I'm going to throw this in the video anyway, just in case if somebody who hasn't seen it before can just see that yes, floor 79 is pretty much easily discombobulated with Nobara. Like, that break is ridiculous, and you would think, again, there's no way it's going to clear right here. Yes, it will, with extreme, and I mean extreme ease. And I'm only including this just to kind of flex the unit, even at just A0. But obviously, when we go to like talking about 81 and 85, we could talk about this unit in like an actual sense, because this isn't really showing off what she's fully capable of. Because again, you're just kind of steamrolling content right here. So that was a quick 4-turn floor 79 clear. You can see that Nobara did the most damage on the stat sheet. And obviously, you know, Inumaki played an important role. That AoE damage is superb. So let's just go into 81 so we can talk about like how this unit really works on the actual difficult content in the game. Okay, so for floor 81 in specific, I was kind of hoping that we would be able to steamroll through the boss in a relatively quick fashion, right? My main issue with this boss is that it hits very, very hard. Very, very hard on ultimate. I brought Miwa because, again, in typical fashion, like I explained in my floor 89 clear during the Aloha Yuji showcase, even though we are on a debuff stage, Miwa's buffs are large enough to where they still kind of make a difference during these general clears, and she also does a lot of damage on her own. So it kind of makes up for the fact that she's a buff unit operating on a debuff stage. I also brought Blue Yaga's Wreck Bit on Ghetto, just because I wanted that passive heal. Because one big issue I usually have with this boss is that this boss likes to hard target like one unit in specific, and I don't want to use the healing Wreck Bit right before the boss ultimates. So obviously that little 10% heal from Yaga's Wreck Bit kind of helps me in a sense, because we get a 2-in-1. We get a heal, and then we also get a defense style Wreck Bit, because again, it does cut Jujutsu and Taijutsu by 30% when we do pop it when the boss does ult. However, we kind of delay the boss's ultimate because we do get a very quick break due to the Wreck Bit I brought on Miwa, which does give increased CE when you do use it, but also has the passive effect of increased break damage for the entire team. Now, right here, it would be a cause for concern, but it's also just an easy guaranteed break. And as you guys can see, it's kind of just hammering down, just straight up skill 3 after skill 3 with Nobara. It's not really an issue whatsoever. But you'll see we get that easy break, and I believe on this run there was a gap turn, I think, so I didn't like co-op ult immediately afterwards. Yeah, which was tragic. Like look how tiny that is. So it's such a tragic thing that occurred. But it does give us one extra turn to just throw in another skill 3 just for the extra damage, and then you'll see the main benefit of running Nobara with like an ideal co-op ult partner like Ghetto or Inumaki, because mind you, Ghetto does do a pretty decent amount of damage in slot 1. Like, if I remember correctly, he does hit like a 6 mil ult in slot 1 with no damage based Wreck Bit. Yeah, like right there. And then Nobara is going to pop ult. She's going to get the benefit of Curse Energy Recovery from Blue Yuta's Banner Wreck Bit, alongside the fact that because she's co-op ulting with Ghetto, she's going to get that extra 14 CE, which is perfect. Look at all that curse energy flying. That's what matters. Now, obviously, right here, we're going to pop the defense Wreck Bit. And we're going to just keep laying down damage, because the goal is the cycle, the combo ults. That's really the goal. It's the cycle, the combo ults. My main concern for this fight was not being able to, I guess you could say, combo ult quick enough, I guess you could say, because I thought the fight was going to drag out a lot longer. But because Nobara is such an oppressive force at A0, we didn't even really have to make it to the second wave of co-op ults, because, again, she's just kind of laying down the law right here. And Miwa and Inumaki's damage also adds up in a very big way. And again, I pop skill 2 again because I'm like, all right, we're pretty close to clearing the fight anyways. So even though I'm overriding my buffs and not letting like the full buffs play out, I'm giving myself that curse energy so I could just keep firing out skill 3 because we're gonna clear. So that's the main goal. Could I do skill 1 to save CE? Yeah, but where's the fun in that? Just give myself the extra curse energy, pop out another skill 3, call it a day. And we got that. And then just right there, that's a 12 turn clear at A0. Now, mind you, that's already monstrous enough as is. But there's one last test that I wanted to do with Nobara, just to see if she can fit in my agenda. And if you guys know the channel, y'all know I love alt loops. So when we go into floor 85, I'm going to discuss my alt loop strategy on it. Okay, so if you aren't new to this channel, this team should be mildly familiar. If you are new to this channel, let me explain something real quick. So basically for my summer Yuji showcase, I had a team that was Miguel, Miwa, Nanami, and Yuji. That was my ult loop team for floor 85. And I thought to myself, Nobara has a giant ultimate gauge. I wonder if I can get her to ult loop. So instead of using Miguel, which is obviously a taijutsu stat debuffer, right, we can use Inumaki as our stat debuffer. He has a pretty small ultimate gauge, so he can fill the role pretty easily. We're also running blue Sukuna's Rec Bit on him, just for the blue damage dealt up, since despite the fact Nanami is a blue damage dealt up unit, he's not exactly applying the most buffs during this run in specific, since we're doing these very tight-knit, short ult loops, right? And all I could think to myself is like, listen, if I can get Nobara to ult loop, I will be satisfied, because the people that are used to this channel, you already know I like firing out ultimates as much as possible. And I was also impressed just by how much Nobara was critting, because at first I'm like, well, I mean, this could be completely sold if Nobara just refuses to crit the entire run, and like I'm just sitting there with a ginormous ult gauge and like no curse energy at some points, trying to close in a loop that doesn't exist. But surprisingly, without even having to bring Blue Yaga to boost her crit rate, she works just fine in this environment. As y'all can see right here, boom. Yep, we got the ult gauge filled out. And you may think like, it took a little bit to close that first loop in, but trust, she clears the content really, really fast, as y'all will see. But just A0, because I'm pretty sure A0 Summer Yuji did it in like 11 turns, I believe, when I recorded a video, and he could have done it in 10. Nobara did it in 10 just flat out, and I was impressed. Don't get me wrong, I was super impressed, because my main concern obviously was, again, the low health bar, which like this boss loves to like repeat smack the same person over and over again. It also applies poison. Now mind you, I could have nerfed the boss's poison damage just by hitting skill 2 on Inumaki, but I thought, if the strategy works how I want it to work, then we won't have to use skill 2 in the first place. So it kind of worked out perfectly in our favor, and Nobara also recovered health upon co-op ulting with Inumaki. So again, everything works out just fine. We don't crit right there, which is tragic, but we do get the benefit of having Nanami and Miwa co-op ulting, then giving back more ult gauge to Nobara and Inumaki to close in that final loop when we do get there, because by this point we're basically fully built up on the Inumaki end of things and alongside Miwa, and it just comes into basically Nanami breaking the boss as much as he possibly can. I mean, Miwa does a fat chunk, but Nanami also has to, clip through a pretty decent amount of the break bar for us to not get, I guess, overwhelmed with damage, because Nobara does have a very short health bar. And then we're obviously really close to break territory, which is perfect. because that scared me right there. I was like, oh man, that's really bad, but we do have the alt gauge buildup, and we do have the break basically secured right here. No wreck bit, so we don't have the full damage, but it was a nice 7 mil stat out of Inumaki with no wreck bit, and then Nobara is going to deal a solid 10 mil no wreck bit on the final hit, which is really, really nice. And then we're still going to have to take one more turn to clear, and a beautiful timeline. I would manifest the 9-turn A0 clear right there, but we will settle for 10 right there. Get a little extra damage. 7.6 out of Nanami was still impressive. This is a Nobara showcase. And even at 9.4 million. You also have to take into consideration with 85, these pure units are also still somewhat nerfed. So, yeah, Nobara can ult loop, which then leads us to the final unit review. Because, man, this is one of the shortest showcases I have ever had to make for a DPS unit in the entire game. Final unit review. And what can I say? We're already at the end of this video, and I can't lie to you, I'm pretty sure that the kit overview section of the video and the actual showcase section is almost equal in size. It's kind of weird. This is one of the first times in like this channel's history where I did an A0 showcase for a DPS unit, and I spent more time talking about the unit's kit than actually really playing the unit in the first place. Removing the floor 79 clear, I mean, it's basically just, she kind of speed runs through content in her like ideal setups. It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild. A lot of people are discussing Nobara versus Yuta. That is kind of like the big hot topic discussion at the moment. And to be completely honest, I did reset my blue Yuta for Nobara for the sake of this showcase, so for some reason I can't find him at the moment. And I will say, the main advantage that Nobara has over Yuta is just, she's able to get her game plan started way faster. Now, mind you, Yuta can get like his core game plan started pretty quickly, with a combination of rec bits and like certain, you know, units on his team. Like obviously you can smack him up with Curse Spirit School Group, put on like Jogo's Banner rec bit on like Blue Yaga, hit skill 2 at the start of the fight for the crit increase, and then try to speedrun your way and get Rika out. With Nobara, it's kind of, you pop skill 2, and then you're just spamming skill 3 all the way. I also feel like, in this discussion, I feel like Blue Yuta does have a lot of applications, right, that you could use him for. But as time goes on, those applications that you would use him for previously will not be as prevalent. Reason being, the new SPs also now exist, because back in the day, like I was looking at one of my old videos from 7 months ago, right? And 7 or 6 months ago, right? And I'm looking at my floor 89 clear, and I'm looking at older floor 89 clears, where basically we were using Yuta as like a Taijutsu DPS stand-in, right? Because he could be used as just a pure Taijutsu stand-in if you didn't have a fully built-out team. But that doesn't really matter nowadays, because again, we have like the hybrid units to take in that spot that are also doing a considerable amount of damage. So in terms of just like Jujutsu performance, they're relatively monstrous, right? It's just the fact that Yuta has a startup period where Nobara really doesn't. They both strive in similar manners though when they're hitting their peaks. That's the main thing I would say. But I would lean towards Yuta's break damage. I do love that break damage increase. So on one-on-one content, well, not one-on-one, because obviously we have a team of 4 or 5 going against one boss mainly. But when you're going against like a single target boss, you know, Yuta's just going to be that guy. But for AoE content and just overall in terms of general ease of usage, I think Nobara is a personal favorite of mine, just off rip. I feel like upon using her, it's just the ease of access. That's really it. Again, because we take into consideration the full picture. We already have Miwa and Nanami. We have hybrid units to stand in if we are lacking those Taijutsu options. So the pre-existing argument of like, okay, but Yuta can also be used in like Taijutsu spaces if needed is almost kind of null. it's almost kind of null. So I do feel like Nobara does have a very strong argument to be #1 blue Jujutsu, right? Just because, again, she starts up super duper easy. The teams that she runs, Yuta can also run. It's just the fact that, again, her startup is way quicker. That's the only difference between these two. And again, the AoE factor. The AoE is crazy. Also considering if you guys have seen the new JP tower floors that they have that may be coming to global, because they're not exactly the same limited tower floors that we have. It's like a completely different tower game mode. And Blue Nobara is heavily, and I mean heavily, favored for that blue Jujutsu content, especially the 20th stage. So if you pulled Nobara, even if she's just at A0, she's a phenomenal unit. She's a standout unit. And I would say arguably the #1 blue Jujutsu. I don't think that's a far-fetched statement to say whatsoever. If you're struggling with Curse Energy, like I said at the beginning of the video, you can just match her up with CE partners that will help her out. All in all, phenomenal unit. I think I'm spending more time, again, talking about how good this unit is, more than actually using her, because she steamrolls content too easily. Like, I was trying to speed run the commentary, because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm running out of footage already, because we cleared the content so quick at A0. But, yeah, that's kind of it for Blue Nobara at the big old A0. I will be doing a sweep video on her as well, which will be probably just as quick as this little video. So if you enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord server. It's in the channel bio. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers. So if you can help, you know, an up-and-coming Phantom Parade YouTuber, hit the sub button. I upload daily here. All right? It's been Jay, aka It's Tropical Juice Story, and I will see you guys later.